Hey, everybody, welcome to the 10th, yes, I said 10th episode of the Principal Cast podcast. And I am so excited this week because I'm not alone. I have Teresa Stagger and Jessica Johnson, who are fresh back from a severe weather storm last week. And we are excited this week for Principal Cast. We have a lot of people that are watching and ready to go. And you know that Principal Cast is the Principal Cast, the definite way. Oh, I really messed that one up. Sorry, guys. The definite way of connecting with us, principalcast.com or on Twitter at principalcast. Tonight's topic is making meaning out of staff meetings. But before we go into that, we're going to start out with our weekly segment. And we will talk with you. Teresa, tell us a little bit about what's been going on in your world.
In my world, we've been I'm just trying to keep my head above water. It's getting to we just finished the first marking period, and now I've done all of my first teacher observations and evaluations for the year. I have all my follow-up meetings tomorrow. I have to do one for all of my returning teachers, and then I need to do 2 a year for my new teachers. So half my staff is new, so it's going to make it a little bit difficult. But so I have my follow-up interviews this week, and then I'm meeting with our Apple Education rep tomorrow to order the rest of our iPads for the rollout in January, because we started with 4th grade in October, and then the rest of them are rolling out in January. So it's been a busy week. How about you, Spike?
It's been a busy week, too. The first part of the week was really cool. We had sneaker week, and so it was a great time to dress down at work. We were all encouraged to wear our sneakers. We were raising money for a good cause, and it's part of our Healthy School initiatives. And then, which was really cool, was I went outside during recess time, and the teachers were all walking around because they each had a little pedometer on, and they were having competition through grade levels with each other to see, how many steps they would take. And as a side note, my PBIS aide, who basically he deals with a lot of the drama and trauma in my school, she just kept one on for a particular day. She had 12,000 steps.
What? Awesome. That's fantastic.
Then, it shows that she's hustling around a lot. But
right.
And then on Thursday we had our first PLC meeting, which I'm excited to talk about that tonight. And then another really cool thing that we have in common is that we had a turkey feast, and that was on Wednesday, where we fed 300 and some kids and staff and special guests, which was really, really cool. So great week. How about you, Jess?
Pedometers. I used to wear a pedometer just to see, to gauge how much I'm getting out of my office and being out in classrooms.
Yeah.
My first couple years, that used to be my little gauge for that. So how am I doing? I'm hoping that I'm not freezing on this podcast, as I always do. You have to let me know if I do freeze. This past week I would have to say, surviving a little bit. Our secretary has been out all week, and I'm sure every principal knows that not having a secretary is tough.
Might as well close the school.
Yeah, I know. No, we had, I've got another great aide who's awesome, and we had some good subs, but.
Okay, unfortunately we lost you a little bit there, Jessica, but you're always good in small doses anyway, so it's excellent. We're so glad to have you back. Did I mention
that?
There's that room. Do all three of us have school this week? I have 2.5 days. Craig Yen wants to know. Spike, what about you?
We have early dismissal, and I call it early dismissal because I refuse to call it half day, because a half day would literally be a half a day. But no, we have early dismissals at I've thought about this before, at 1:45, and then crazy thing, tomorrow night and Tuesday night we have parent conferences from 6 to 8. So
Yeah.
teachers get a little bit of break. They can leave right after dismissal, and then be back for the evening. And then we do get out early on Wednesday for the start of the Thanksgiving break. And did you say you were in this week?
Yeah, I have 2 days and an early dismissal
Nice.
on Wednesday. We're out at noon on Wednesday. And then we have the rest of the week off, obviously. Craig says he's got the whole week off. Simon Miller has early release on Wednesday. Jess, what about you?
We
Oh, rats.
No, you still can't hear me.
Oh, now we can.
Oh, do you know how annoying it is to talk and then hear she's not there? I just talked to myself.
I'm
yeah, we
sorry.
have school Monday and Tuesday.
Okay.
So exciting.
Very cool. So, Teresa, tell us a little bit about your turkey luncheon, because and I would love for you to also I know you tweeted it out, or at least put it on Facebook, the article that was written about it, but that seems like a really cool thing. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it looks like you did a lot of the same thing that we did. It was funny because this is so unique, this is so cool, and then I tweeted it out today, and I put it on Facebook, and the first response was from Spike that said, "Oh, we do the same thing," and I was like, "Oh, well, I guess that's great."
I'm sorry, I was trying to be like, maybe it
That's
didn't come
okay.
across like I was like, oh, that's really cool.
No,
We do the same thing.
No, it did.
I wasn't trying to be like, that
Oh.
like Saturday Night Live character where it's like they always have to like one up somebody. Like I wasn't trying to do that. I should just let you have your time of glory. But but we didn't have an article written about it, so it's certainly not as cool.
It's funny because we have a chef in our school. He owned a restaurant for a long time, and now he spends his time cooking food for our kids. He's so cool. Just awesome. It's amazing. And so he about 15 years ago they started this, where the whole school, our PTO sponsors it, and they give him the money to go out and purchase all of the food. And this year we had 12 20-plus pound turkeys. We had I can't even tell you the ridiculous amount of food, but the cool thing is that the students all get to help. So the kids start coming down on Wednesday and on Thursday, and they come down and they make, some of the kids break the bread for the stuffing. Some of the kids do, they help make the desserts, and there are parents that come in. It's amazing. So all of our staff and students get to sit down and have this awesome Thanksgiving lunch all together. But then I was actually at an archdiocesan meeting early in the morning, and the topic for the meeting was media relations. And so we're sitting at this meeting, and I'm thinking about having to go back to school and wanting to get back to school, and we've got this big thing going on. It's the first year I'm going to be there, and they're talking about, the time that you really want to talk to the media is when what is it that your school does that nobody else does, or you think nobody else does? And so I was sitting there, and I was like, oh, we have this Thanksgiving thing today. And so I sent my secretary a text message, and I was like, call the news. Just call the news. They're never going to be able to get anybody here, but see if they can do it. It was like an hour and a half beforehand. And so they did a story on the phone. They interviewed my administrative assistant. They interviewed the chef, and then they had us take pictures, and we sent them pictures, and they ran the story. So it was really, really cool. I mean, they jumped right on it. And that's what they told us, during the media relations. Most of you probably already know this, but the biggest thing is that you want something that is community relations, and you want something that has photo or video.
Right.
So we had both, and they were all about it. So it was a great week.
That's cool. Yeah, we I think a few years ago we had the press come out, and it's the same thing. It's been around for about 15 years or something like that, and it was, so well before I got there, and I didn't realize how much of a big thing it was until I first got to Bacon School, and it was really cool to enjoy it. And ironically, last year I had scheduled our own Jeff Bradbury, aka Teacher Cast, to come and do podcasting with the kids. So he got a chance to enjoy the Thanksgiving feast and experience it. So it was really cool. Just a really, really great thing to do, and like you said, just getting parents and community involved, and everybody was working together. It was really cool.
That is very cool. Oh, this is Chris Nessie says a school he volunteered at last year canceled their dinner for families in need, and then just did a food collection instead. And he said he was disappointed he wasn't going to be able to do it next year. And it's true. Look at this. We're not the only ones. Nick Connor says we're doing their first Thanksgiving feast on Tuesday night. The Caring Committee thought we'd get RSVPs of about 100, and they got 500. Peggy George remembers very fondly the Thanksgiving dinners at their school, very small community in Massachusetts, 130 kids K through 6. Everything was provided by our families, and it was served family style, just like in summer camp. The kids were the servers. That is awesome. Craig, 12 20-plus pound turkeys feeds over 200 people. We
Wow.
fed all of the students and the staff. Then we fed the 40 volunteers that came to help. And then we fed the soup kitchen later that night, and we still had some leftovers the next day. So it feeds about 200 people. It was a
That's
lot of
cool.
So awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome.
If you want to see, one of my teachers put a little Thanksgiving video together, and if you go on our RM Bacon Weekly .blogspot.com,
I will tweet that out.
one of the teachers put together a little Thanksgiving video, and you can see some of the things from the feast. But just the like everyone else is saying, like these long tables, and
Right.
it's definitely family style. And ours isn't. It's really just for the kids. It's not necessarily like for for needy families or anything like that. Although we
Right.
do. We service a lot of students who quite often this will be one of their biggest meals of the holiday season. So
hey, I want to hijack the agenda. If you
Sweet.
can hear me. Can you hear me?
We can.
yeah.
Okay, I'm going to hijack the agenda and throw out this question. Do you
Oh.
Well, thank you
There it
so
is.
much for
There
that.
it is.
Thank
Go
you so
ahead,
much for
Jeff.
that question.
seriously, you still can't hear me?
No, we can't now. Go ahead.
I think I'm just picturing Jeff back there pushing a button oh, she started talking, oh, push her and stop her.
He's laughing.
Do you let teachers do movies or parties or anything during these short weeks?
You know what? We did, because all of the kids last week, they're not doing any parties this week, because after our Thanksgiving lunch, the kids were so over the top crazy, because it was, it's a change in the schedule. So of course, naturally things are nuts. But they were allowed to they did a movie that afternoon in place of recess because it was raining. So they did a movie then, but we're not doing any parties this week.
How about you, Spike?
I don't like them to, just because I think that we should be taking all the time that we can, for instructional time, even if it is centered around the different holidays. I'll never forget when I was a first-year teacher. And Jess, I'm getting some feedback over. I don't know if is your iPad or your computer on at the same time?
My iPad and my computer are both on, but there's no audio coming from either of them.
I don't know where it is then. I don't know. You're not hearing it?
No.
Okay. Must be just in my head. It's the voices in my head.
Yeah,
but,
that happens to principals.
Yeah, but basically, I don't even know what I was talking about now.
No movie.
Oh, no movie. So it's in my first year of teaching, and I remember I was trying to get my grades done. So I put a movie in, and I had the kids watch it, and I was working in the back. And my mentor came up to me later on. He's like, "Oh, so what movie you were showing?" I'm like, "Oh, I was showing them A Nightmare Before Christmas." It was like that, that Tim Burton, movie. And he was like, "Oh, okay." He's like, "Yeah, he's like, as a father, I really get disappointed when I come home and the kids are watching movies."
Yep.
And he never said it direct. You know what I mean? Like he said
Right.
it to me, but it was more like as a mentor. And I'm like, you know what? I'm never going to do that again.
Yeah.
So I'm very cognizant of that, but I do realize that there are times where it's necessary.
Yeah, and Chris Nasi made a point. He said, this week a teacher brought to my attention the school district's policy, which doesn't allow movies to be shown in full. And that's what I just commented on, that was that we don't show them in full either. This was for the recess time that they had, to calm them all down and give the teachers a little bit of a break, because the teachers didn't get their lunchtime, their set aside lunchtime. So putting them all together allowed for, and you have to remember, our classes are like 11, 12, 13. So putting them all together, in small groups is still only 30. There's like not a lot of kids, but it's not a full movie. I'm glad that you said that. And Adam Clark says, thank you, Spike, for limiting parties.
And I always remind teachers, like, on those short weeks, our kids are already going to be crazy. So the more you stray from the regular routine, the crazier they're going to get. And for this week, I shared with them a blog post called
"Why I Don't Share Movies Before Break." She just sent it out on the Principal Cast.
Very cool.
Twitter. I just saw it.
And did you take over because I froze?
I did.
I'm gonna have to check that out, because that sounds like really cool, something really cool. But I know I've ruffled some feathers, no pun intended, around Thanksgiving. But I definitely, at my school, I've ruffled some feathers for my stance on showing movies. So if they do, it's not in full, and they also make sure that they are having some sort of objective to it.
That's right. It is appropriate. It goes with the school, with their lessons. It has something to do with the holiday, or et cetera. And Peggy says it's more than school policy. It is a copyright violation, which is true. Showing a movie to a large group of people is against copyright. However, if you are showing it for educational purposes, I believe that it's not.
Yes, we've looked into that.
So yeah.
But that, it's a good thing to think about, and to be cognizant of, and making sure that, you always have, a rigorous academic setting, but you also have to understand too, like, especially being in elementary school, has to be some times where you have to work with your teachers and students.
Right. Peggy says if you're using it for face-to-face instruction and just not playing it to entertain, it can meet fair use guidelines. Yep, that's what I was thinking too. Good call. So I think that we need to jump ahead to our topic of the week, because we are 25 minutes in. So we have some clips here on how to keep staff meetings meaningful. And Jess has put quite a few things in here in the show notes, and I'm going to go ahead and tweet them out. Jess,
those are just blog posts that share video clips, funny video clips. Some of them are from Kurt Reese.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Kurt Reese. That guy is awesome.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
He's definitely one of my favorites in Wisconsin, but you know who my all-time favorite is.
The Frozen Girl.
Erin Rogers.
The Frozen Girls, yeah. Actually, it's the superintendent from Fall Creek, Joe Sanfilippo, who's going to be coming to our school tomorrow he's going to be doing a live podcast with our students, and it's really cool. Yeah, they did like a compare contrast with New Jersey superintendent, our superintendent, Dr. Gentile, and with Joe Sanfilippo, and they're going to be interviewing him tomorrow. So it's going to be really cool.
Oh, that's really neat.
So what was that, Jess?
Spike said there better be food there.
Okay, very cool. So, Teresa, why don't you talk to us a little bit about, how about we start from the beginning? What was your first staff meeting like?
My very first staff meeting was, I think, but I don't know, it felt really uncomfortable and horrible. No, I think it was fine. It was, it was before school started, so we're discussing, it was just a whole, like, going over policies and procedures, trying not to make things terribly boring and awful, but just there was a lot of conversation back and forth, trying to make sure that it's, as long as it's not a time waster, is what I feel like. I didn't want, especially since the teachers were coming back in August and I was taking time away from them in the classroom, I wanted to make sure that, because we don't start school until after Labor Day. I think that needs to be said. So in Michigan, it's a state law. We can't start until after Labor Day. So our teachers come back in August and start doing professional development so that we're not in school until July. So, you know, because they're not in their classroom working on, you know, everything that they need to be working on at the beginning of the school year, I felt like it needed to at least be a conversation. So it was a lot of meeting. We did a lot of icebreakers because half of our staff was new. Yeah. They had a new principal. They had, you know, half of the new teachers, and then some of the teachers that we did have were moving grades. So I think it was a really unique situation. Probably not how, you know, if I told you how the first staff meeting I had when I was doing my administrative internship went, that would be a completely different story because I knew all of those people. You know, it was a different situation, but this one was kind of weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can remember my first staff meeting. Obviously, I was super nervous, and, you know, I was the new guy coming in from the outside. They had an interim principal, so I wanted to make sure that I was, you know, setting the stage, and I wanted them to learn about me. So I did a couple activities where they got a chance to learn about me. I think I even at one point juggled, you know, anything that I could do just to get their attention.
I don't know if you guys can see this, Spike. I'm so sorry, but this is hysterical.
Oh yeah, let me win one. Let me talk.
It's, if you can't see this, it says it's from Chris Nesi, and it says Principal Cass, Dr. Spike Cook, Principal Stagger, let her win one. And it's a picture. It says Jessica 0, Google Hangout 7.
What does that mean?
It means you keep getting frozen.
Oh.
They're counting how many times
keep score of how many times I get booted.
Sorry, Spike. I couldn't let that
That's okay.
go any longer. I'm sorry. Go ahead. That was hysterical.
No, I understand. Poor Jessica. Like we said, small doses. But so I didn't quite really know what to do other than what I had learned, what I had, you know, like you said, done in my, you know, internship, or just being, you know, observer in the, you know, the various staff meetings I have been to before. So, but I was much more of like the entertainer, you know, and then, okay, so it really wasn't until becoming a connected educator that I started to do my staff meetings a little bit differently, in the sense of, you know, what to make them more meaningful, you know, to make them, you know, to take some different risks and some different chances to do some things differently. So it took a while. I would say that first year was really tough. I really tried to stay you know, in the straight and narrow.
That's awesome. Adam Clark just posted that Amber, 8 Amber 8. What is her?
She just did a webinar.
That's what he just posted. Amber Tiemann just presented a wonderful webinar this week and shared great ideas regarding staff development and staff meetings. So yeah. I'm going to go ahead and tweet that out.
That's awesome. I'd be curious to see that, because it really took a while for me to get, you know, to get that under my belt, like, and to realize that, like, as the instructional leader, so to speak, that I had to start modeling things. So I started to take even some of the ideas from Classroom Instruction That Works and some of the other things, you know, to actually make. So yeah, last year I would say I tried to do more teaching, you know, and to try to model in that way. And then this year we're going more into C's, but let's see what Jessica can give us.
Well, as small of a dose as I can. I always have Todd Whitaker in the back of my head of, you know, you want your staff to leave your meetings feeling inspired and ready to go back to teach. So I always try to, you know, model strategies for teachers. If there's anything that can be read in an email, it's read in an email. It's not part of our meeting. Really, none of my meetings are ever the same. It's based on whatever needs we have at the time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with what Jess just said. I remember being a teacher and thinking it was the worst thing ever to get an email and all of this information that you're receiving, and then to go over it again in a staff meeting. It's just an absolute waste of time. Yeah. So that's a huge thing. And I think Melinda Miller was one of the people that talked about that a lot when she was doing the podcast with Scott Elias, was that you know, you don't don't send it out in an email if you're going to discuss it again.
Right.
Don't ask them to read it if you're going to talk about it again. Just let it go and move on. And it's a really good point.
One of the things that I tried to do last year, especially when I was feeling that there were issues with staff caring about the situations that some of these children were bringing, just some things that I would hear some things in the office and whatnot, and we have some kids who have some really rough backgrounds. So I found this book, and I read it, and so like what Jessica's saying, sometimes after I got my feet under myself and I understood more about what my role was, I tried to do different things. So we did a book, If She Only Knew Me. I mean, literally people were crying because the book was really good. So I tried to do different things like that. And then towards the end of last year, I started to hear about like the flipped classroom, the flipped meetings, so I tried a couple of those, and I think those were effective too, to try to help break up some of the monotony, and I felt like that helped out a lot.
I've been looking into doing some flipped meetings, but I feel like it sounds crazy, but I feel like I don't have enough staff meeting time anymore, because what I've done is and I think I discussed this on one of the other podcasts, is that because we have so many new staff members, we created a peer mentoring system. So there's one returning teacher with one new to the building teacher, and then so they meet once a month, and then we have PLCs that the grades are broken down into, and they meet once a month, and then we've got a staff meeting once a month, and I try to only use one unless we need the second one. Mm-hmm. But I feel like we need it because we need to be together, but not, and so I won't hold it unless there's something to talk about, but I feel like we need it because we're never all around each other. So it's a weird, I don't know.
Well, you do give up a little bit of control when you don't have meeting. So if you can communicate, with the staff through email or
right.
through a video, and I've done that too. Like I've done times where I've said like, okay, we're not going to have a staff meeting this month, which everyone they cheer and they're happy and all that stuff. But you do give a little bit of that control away, right. which is sometimes really healthy. I know one time I had a staff meeting, this was last year, where I found this TED Talk by David Blaine, which I thought was amazing because I think he's a great magician, but he talked a lot about his education experience in there. So I said, instead of a staff meeting, just watch the TED Talk, and and I don't think everyone did. Of course, I know everyone didn't, but the people who did, I was able to have really cool conversations with them later on. But I do think that there's something important about all of us getting together. But as I said, like I've recently gotten into, doing PLC. So we're supposed to have, 2 staff meetings a month. So we basically have 6 PLCs going on right now. And that, it's the first one of the month is designed for language arts, math, and technology, and then the second one of the month is for our PBIS program, our Healthy Schools initiative, and our school and community engagement. So as we go into this, it's like 3 little staff meetings going on, and I'm really trying to empower the teachers and stay right. out of there as much as possible. And it's hard because it's like I think people do like getting together. I think there's a big part of that, and mm-hmm. It's not to say that I won't do that anymore, but it's really like I had to go from one to another, and then I also had to step back a little bit and say, our chairs and co-chairs could really benefit from allowing themselves to have this time to connect with the other educators.
Yeah, there's a lot of chat happening in the chat room right now, so I feel like we need to go into this
sure.
Really quick, because there are just a ton of really good stuff. And if I always hate to ask this, but if the people who are in the chat room can stop adding things really quickly, just because I lose my place and then I can't find it again. Chris Nessie says he can't stand meetings. Oh, come on, guys. Craig, you're killing me. Says, I can't stand meetings that are run where the leaders talk about what teachers should be doing and how they should do it, but don't model the techniques in their own presentations.
Good point.
And then Craig says he thinks he misses a lot of the info in all the emails and notices that come through his box. And you know what? That's a good point, too. And I know that Spike and myself and Jessica all do the same thing, where we send out on Monday an email that covers the week, and I try really hard to make sure that anything that can be held for that email is held. Anything that has to go out that is very time sensitive, I send out when it comes. But anything that can be held for that weekly email, so that they just know that anything that has to be seen is in this email. That's been helping a lot, because they know it's not just constant emails going out.
Yeah, and mine is on a blog too, so they
Mine
actually,
is too,
if
yeah.
they can't find that email, it's up on the blog.
It's
and
up
I
on the
rarely
blog.
send out all staff emails. It's only in that for the most part.
Yeah. Henry Turner says they started using different protocols at faculty meetings to model different strategies and how they can produce different outcomes. This is with the hope that they will use these protocols in their PLC meetings, and that is a great idea. Craig says, sorry, I got lost. Craig says his principal has been trying to share different strategies as well, and having different members share too. Henry Turner sent out a protocol for educators link. It's a book. I sent out the link on the Twitter. Simon says in his experience in the classroom, and I was a tech coordinator, oftentimes the principal has to spend time catering to the few difficult staff members rather than maximizing the meeting. For example, when the staff member says, I don't have time to read the email. Simon Miller's high school principal did a great job flipping staff meetings. Overall, it seemed to go over well.
Yeah, and I think the flips, I think the flipped staff meeting has met a lot of success, but I wonder in a lot of the areas that this is going on, what the engagement is through that. So you'd have, like with us, I mean, we have a pretty typical bell-shaped curve of people who are into technology as far as the teachers are concerned. So you have those, couple who, they struggle with being able to follow email, and then you have the ones that are creating their own blogs and stuff, and then you have most of the people in the middle. So I wonder if, if my staff is just that typical, or is there other, areas that, the staff are way more involved in the flipped classroom, the flipped staff meeting.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead and chat back in the chat room. Simon says the email and blog is a great idea, but he's trying not to add too often so that I can read it. So I appreciate it, guys.
I just want to share another idea that I started this year in our staff meetings. Is at the beginning of each meeting is tech talk. So like the same idea of giving a book talk, but teachers sign up to give a tech talk of something that they're using in their classroom, since we're one-to-one with iPads. And I have, on our staff blog, I have a Google.
Yeah, I know that she doesn't link out her Google, her Google Doc that she sends to the staff, but I think to everyone else. But I think that's a really good idea. Could you talk a little bit more about that, Jess?
About the tech talk?
Yeah.
Just that teachers can sign up for it in the Google Doc, which is on our blog, or my staff blog. And, I've had to encourage people like, oh, that's a great idea. You should share that at our next meeting. But actually, at our last meeting, I didn't have anybody yet, but I wanted us to talk about the SAMR model. So I had.
Yeah, she sent out a link earlier about the SAMR model, and it seemed like I saw that on Twitter a few times too. Jessica, could you talk a little bit more about the SAMR model?
So I had teachers in groups, and in their groups just talked about what apps they're using with their iPads, because we're one-to-one. And then as they talked about what the apps were that they're frequently using, had discussion on, well, where is that on the SAMR model? And so just identifying where are we, what are we commonly using, and what else can we do, what other ideas can we get from other teachers to get up higher on the SAMR model.
What is the SAMR model?
That stands for substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition.
You familiar with that one, Teresa?
I'm not. I'm actually just taking notes on it right now.
So I'm guessing that I froze on a lot of that.
Yes. If we cut you off, it means you froze.
Okay. So substitution and augmentation are like those basic technology that really just replace a worksheet. You're just doing it on technology instead. But modification and redefinition are using technology in ways that you wouldn't be able to do those things, like blogging or creating videos and putting them on YouTube, or publishing your own book in iBooks.
Okay.
Chris Nessie asked a good question, like, how confident am I that the staff is accessing the blog? Like, how about you, Teresa? How do you track that, or do you, what is your opinion on that?
You know what? I track it via Google Analytics, but I will kind of, in conversations, have I'll kind of throw in a what is that called? I'll kind of throw them a bone and see if they take it.
That's exactly
done. Yeah,
that's so funny.
Really the way we can do it.
That's exactly what I did. Like, yeah. What's that, Jess?
The email.
It's so funny that, and I don't do it just to be, like, I want to know if they're viewing the blog or whatever, but because sometimes, like, we were embedding videos on there that I wanted the students to see, so I try to remind them of that, and it's just kind of modeling for everybody, because our blog is supposed to be for students, parents, and teachers all together. But it's so funny that you said that, because I think it was a few weeks back, and I didn't have a student video, so I found something on, I think it was through Facebook. It was how to eat an apple like a boss, and I think we talked about that.
I think we did.
So I asked a few people. I'm like, "Did you see that? Did you see that video that I posted about the apple?" And they were like, "No, what? What are you talking about?" And then I knew that they weren't accessing the blog, and it's kind of, it's not. I mean, it's humbling,
right?
But because I do try to put a lot of time into it, put pictures and things like that into it. But it's funny that you said that, because it's like, you do the same thing. You just kind of ask questions,
And Jessica responded, I'm so glad that you put this in the thing, because I do the same thing. She had staff sign up for an email subscription, and that's how the blog gets good reception. What I did, I use EduBlogs, which allows you to sign people up for a subscription. Mm-hmm. So I added all of my staff in, so every time I post, it sends them an email that says, there is a new post, and they can just click it and go right to it.
See, and I have that on there. I've encouraged them to do it, but in Google, that's the one, like, where I have the Bacon Weekly.
Right.
I don't know if I even know how to access my subscribers on there.
Spike, what do you use for your blog, Spike?
Blogger. Blogger.
Yeah, it would be in Google. Go to FeedBurner.
FeedBurner.
Yeah. And I
stopped going to FeedBurner because it was so hot.
Jeff. Oh no.
You who subscribed to your blog?
It burns me up sometimes. It's very hot. I don't know.
Well, Jeff just put a comment in the chat box that says Bacon Weekly, 2 words that always belong together.
Bacon Weekly, that's awesome.
Okay, so back on the SAMR model, I have 10 seconds to be heard. Craig Young just tweeted a YouTube clip on SAMR model and Starbucks, which I'm totally psyched to watch later on.
That's awesome. We love Craig Young. He is like the man.
I know. Awesome.
I'm going to check that out. I learned something new today, because I have no idea about the SAMR model. Like I said, well, never mind. I won't say another corny joke, but Jessica, do you want to try another 20 seconds, or should we talk?
We should probably. Oh, Peggy. Oh, this is a good one. Peggy says, I used to offer incentives to the first couple of teachers who read and responded to my emails, random emails, by offering to take a recess duty.
You know what I was going to start doing? I'm going to start doing it this week. If they read the Bacon Weekly and they can report back to me, I'm going to give them an ASU sweatshirt.
Wow.
The one I'm...
ASU sweatshirt.
The one that Miss Freezalots is wearing. I'm going to ask to see if Miss Freezalots can send that out to us. Fortunately,
when I'm not talking and I'm just making faces at you, people can't see me doing that.
It is funny to watch, because you kind of go like this and then you freeze. But
I miss you. When I go,
No, we didn't. We never saw that. But I miss you too. Like, I mean, working with Jeff last week was great. But I would say that I missed you so much. Can we talk a little bit real quick about the storm? Like, how'd you guys deal with that? Because I was looking for some live reporting last week, and it didn't happen.
Well, it didn't happen for me because it wasn't as bad here as what Teresa got. But my 3-year-old was petrified, and I couldn't, I'd think he was asleep, and then I'd move, and he'd wake up, and so I just finally went to bed with him.
Oh. Yeah, it was really tough here. We were kind of in the because it's not very hilly here, so we're kind of in this tornado alley, they call it, toward the bottom of Michigan and then the northern part of Ohio and Indiana, and it just ripped through. Once it left Chicago, there were 40-some tornadoes. A lot of people lost power for almost a week.
Oh my goodness.
We had, I know my kids, the rain, it was ridiculous because the wind was like 70-some miles an hour, and the rain was literally just coming into the side of the house. I mean, just straight into the side of the house. And so we got home, and we're new because we moved down here for this job, so it's a relatively new house for the kids, and they're both upstairs, and their rooms are on the corner of the upstairs, so they can hear the wind zipping by, they can hear the rain, and we ended up having a sleepover downstairs on the floor because I was so afraid of my son sleeping in front of the window because his bed sits right in front of the window, and I was petrified of something flying through it. I mean, it was really bad. We lost a lot of really big trees at our school. Thank goodness the power pole fell earlier in the year. Because if it hadn't,
my God.
I'm sure it would have been a total mess.
You know what it probably would have done too? It probably would have knocked your audio out for like 20 seconds at a time.
It would have frozen my internet.
Okay, just so you know, Tony Sinanis just tweeted, "No more picking on Jess."
Oh, come on, Tony. You know what we call that, Tony? That's called the Dodgeland drop. Every time that she speaks, that's the school that she's at, she has the Dodgeland drop. So, Craig, I don't know if that happens out in California or not, but it definitely happens in Wisconsin. It's called the Dodgeland drop.
Yeah, and this is what I had some friends that used to say to me, when I stop picking on you, that's when you know you're in trouble.
Right.
So at least we all pick on each other.
We pick on each other. I mean,
it's just her turn today.
Well, it's hard to pick on you, Teresa, when you can just reply right back to me. And you also get my humor, and then what happens is she freezes, and we just keep going. We have to keep looking at each other. Hashtag 2/3 audio.
All right, so we really need to wrap this up.
Okay.
So let's we'll do this.
But you know what?
Current. Wait, hold on. One more thing. Okay. One really big thing. There's the Keeping Current. I do want to throw this out because if you don't know, they're doing. There are all these ed camps that are happening, and they're doing an ed camp home.
Yep, I just signed up yesterday.
Yes, I'm going to sign up as soon as we're done here. This is Ed Camp Home, and it is. I tweet out the link, but you should definitely join it. It's a Keeping Current thing that I don't want you to miss out on, which is why I don't want to leave it until next week. And Spike, do you want to put your All Things PLC on here too?
Yeah, did I put that on there?
You did. So
okay.
Do you want to talk about it real quick, and I'll throw it up there?
Yeah, I really think we've done a lot of laughing today, and I think that's important too, because if we want to talk about making things meaningful, we wouldn't be doing this if we weren't having fun and stuff like that. So I think once we start enjoying ourselves, we make things more meaningful, just like our staff meetings. My thing right now has been, like I said, I've been really transitioning into PLCs, and I found this awesome website, All Things PLC.
You can spend hours looking at All Things PLC. There is so much there.
Oh, this is new for me, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, it gives you a lot of good resources. I will say that my literacy coach was taking a grad class on PLCs, and this was last year, and she came to me and was like, we have to start doing these. It's so ironic, though. It's right in our evaluation system. So I keep telling the teachers, I'm like, well, the more you participate in PLC, the better it will be on your teacher evaluation. So it's pretty cool. So I will definitely check out that EdCamp Home 2.0. That sounds pretty cool. I missed the EdCamp New Jersey this weekend just because I was feeling a little bit under the weather. But from what I understand, Jeffrey Bradbury once again did a great job with that.
Joe Sanfilippo and Tony Sinanis were having way too much fun there.
You know, I got to tell you guys, EdCamp New Jersey yesterday was absolutely amazing. We had over 300 people show up.
Awesome.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jeffrey Bradbury.
Who's sitting
giant apple.
Who's sitting here doing homework and working on my needs assessment curriculum, actually. But I got to tell you, Spike, 300 people showed up. We had students Skyping in to present from across the world. We had 2 people drive in from Wisconsin, actually, not related to each other. Wow. 2 people from Wisconsin came in, and ironically, when they were both giving presentations, they froze on the spot. So
I was just going to say, when, oftentimes, like, I'm a little bit nervous about tomorrow because when I talk to Joe, like in real life, I wonder if he's going to stop every 20 seconds.
It's amazing.
And freeze.
They bring their bandwidth with them, so it's pretty cool.
Jeff, how long were you sitting there holding on to that?
Okay, don't just pick on every Wisconsin person just because of me. That's not fair.
No, not at all.
And so, yeah, it was awesome. We did a live chat in the morning, which was hosted by Brad Curry and Scott and Billy, and we actually had Daisy come in from Arkansas. We had some students Skyping in for a while. We had some of our high school students doing film projects. We broadcasted live at Classroom 2.0 with the wonderful Peggy George. Say hello out there to Peggy. And it was amazing. Where do we go from here? I don't know. We're talking about doing it as a multiple day. I'd love to see some kind of an EdCamp New Jersey meets EdCamp Online kind of a thing. But, yeah, Spike, we had a great, great time.
And I will say, when I was on the couch relaxing, I had my iPhone, and I watched your live feed of Sad Chat.
Cool.
Yeah, really cool.
It was a really, really great time. And then we all went out to Chili's, and I had a great time with Joe, and I had a great time with Tony. And, yeah, great, great, great people. And well, except for the one time where Joe was like, he had his chicken and he went up to his mouth and he froze. But
yeah, that's awesome because I don't go to Chili's anymore. It's way too cold in that place.
Oh my gosh. Okay, people to follow on Twitter this week.
All right, I'm cutting out here. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Do you want me to go first in case?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. My principal to follow this week is Dr. Bill Brennan. He is at DrBillBrennan. That's Dr. Bill Brennan. He's a New York principal who's now director of technology, which is interesting. As a side note, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but both him, Lynn Hilt, and Joe Mazda, who are all principals, have now transitioned into different, I think through social media, into different jobs within their districts because of their access of social media. So he was a principal. He is now a director of technology. His blog is wbrennan.wordpress.com, and he recently wrote a pretty cool dissertation on connected educators. So shout out to Bill Brennan.
Awesome. I also tweeted out, Spike, the link to your post on Dr. Bill Brennan's book. And do you want to share about some special things that might be going on with Dr. Bill Brennan?
Oh, you're thinking about Bill Sterrett?
Oh, Bill Sterrett. Goodness
Sorry,
gracious.
About Short on Time.
Yes.
We do have him booked. If you are out there and you want to read this before our I just finished this today. And I did a post, Short on Time, long on resources. But Dr. Bill Sterrett, who was a principal as well, he transitioned into becoming a college professor. So what's that say about principals? It's something that we don't have for a long time. Or that there's promising things in our future, Teresa.
Seacrest out.
Jessica, do you have anybody you have to follow? Or
yeah.
To follow?
I don't know if you shared these last week or not, but Tom and Leah Whitford.
I did actually, and I love Tom. I love Tom.
Well, I didn't think of anybody new. I just had Tom and Leah, so I'll share them again.
I did. Obviously, I guess you didn't listen to the podcast, but that's cool.
I guess you didn't read the email. Sorry.
Fine. I'm done.
You're done.
We love you.
Principal J out.
Principal J.
You know who I want to say I think we should all follow at Principal J.
I think
She's
Not sure
great.
why.
And you know what? She doesn't need 140 characters. She can get it done in 120 because she just freezes at 120.
I'll stay home next time when we podcast.
No. Well, not. I mean,
if
not
it's
like
going to help
home,
your
like-
internet, then okay.
It might
but-
help.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
It might help go to the local Starbucks, which is like 45 minutes away.
Yes, we don't all
I'm
have
being
Starbucks
bad
in our
tonight.
backyard anymore.
I'm
That's what
sorry.
happens when we miss a week with each other. Terrible. All right. So my person to follow this week is actually one of the biggest contributors to our chat room every week, and it is Mr. Chris Nessie. If for no other reason, you need to visit his Twitter profile because he has the most awesome Twitter background. So please out, and he's a great person to have in your PLN.
And did you mention that he was also on Rachel Ray?
I did not. Rumor has it that Mr. Chris Nessie was on Rachel Ray.
What?
If you go to his we did a little research on Chris Nessie,
Did.
and Teresa and I were doing some show prep, and all of a sudden I'm like, he was on Rachel Ray, and he
What?
is apparently
What?
yeah, you're gonna have to watch it. It's a segment he has embedded on his blog, and I think that's gonna get a lot of people talking.
So that's 10 seconds until now, and now you have.
So, Teresa, I hate to
Yes?
say this to you, but the last couple of times you've been bugging out a little bit.
Yes!
Are
It
you
was
hitting
freezing for me too. I knew it. It's not just me.
are you hitting the mute button?
Crap. I'm not, but you know what?
I
I
think
am
she-
typing at the same time, and Google Hangouts has this ridiculously horrible thing that when you start typing, it
Principal
mutes
J
you.
too. I got 2 points.
I didn't want to say anything because I was like, please, Teresa, don't. Oh, she just
Please,
did
Did
it.
it again.
She froze on purpose. She did the first on purpose Michigan freeze that I've ever seen. Oh, Jeffrey, save me. Craig, please help me. Somebody. Hashtag frozen screen.
Dagger out.
Okay. We're
We
glad we're all
lost it.
back.
I think it's time to say goodbye.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so
Thank you,
hey,
everyone, for
Jessica,
sticking in with us this week.
Jessica,
What?
do you want to take us home?
Take us home.
Yeah.
I'll freeze in 10 seconds. Let's do it as fast
Do
as
it
we
fast.
can.
All right, what do you recommend for us to follow?
Oh, what?
You
I
already
said Tom
did.
and Leah Whitford, 2 awesome
Good for you.
Wisconsin principals who also happen to be married. T. Whitford and Leah_Whit, and I'm sorry that you already tweeted them out last time, but I'm doing it again because they're that awesome.
That's
and
awesome.
Tom has a face for radio, so that's what he said. He tweeted that out.
He's the man.
Spike obviously didn't read the email either.
I must not have, but
What
I did.
email?
It's just what we were talking about earlier with the staff members not reading the emails.
Well, here's the thing. I couldn't listen.
We knew you couldn't, but I
Time to
know
go.
that you would try. Okay,
It's
so
not up yet.
yeah, that was.
All
I'm not
right.
really sure how much we
Spike.
got of that, but
Spike, probably you're the best person to wrap it up.
okay.
I'll wrap it up. Principal cast out.
Thank you,
Okay.
everyone.